Okay, Numbers chapter 1. Okay, the first numbering, Numbers chapter 1, camp of Reuben, 46,500. That's not for the whole camp of Reuben, that's just for Reuben. Simeon, 59,300. Gad, 45,650. In the total, 151,450. Judah, 74,600. Issachar, 54,400. Zebulun, 57,400. For a total of 186,400. Ephraim, 40,500. Manasseh, 32,200. Benjamin, 35,400. That is the smallest of the camps at 108,100. Dan, 62,700. Asher, 41,500. Naphtali, 53,400. And that camp total was 157,600. And a total 603,550. And we'll go over the other columns after your next reading assignment. Numbers chapter 2, where the tribes pitched their tents. Tell me the three south, Diane.
Reuben, Simeon, and Gad.
Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. All right, give me three more, Travis. On the west side.
Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin.
Travis, why do you think these tribes were lumped together? Why wasn't Gad over here with Ephraim and Manasseh and Benjamin? Or with Manasseh and Benjamin? Or Ephraim and Benjamin?
That's how God wanted it.
What?
That's how God wanted it.
We're not going to settle for that. Okay. What do you think, Ellen?
They had the same mother and grandmother.
Well, they had Rachel was the mother of all these kids here, grandmother. Rachel's the mother of Benjamin, and these two right here, Ephraim and Manasseh, equal Joseph, and his mother was Rachel too. In the north, what do we have, Earl?
Dan, Asher, and Naphtali.
And to the east, what do you say, Debbie Watkins?
Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun.
This is the way God set it up. It makes chapter 16 much more understandable, if you understand that. All right, page 3. The Levites are numbered separately. Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kohath, Merari. Each became a family within the tribe of Levi. Gershon's descendants, what do you got there, Leanne?
7,500.
What about Kohath?
8,600.
What about Merari?
6,200.
What does that total up to?
2,200.
2,200. You shoot them?
22,000.
Oh, 22,000.
22,300.
Now, Leanne, is it 22,000 or is it 22,300?
I've got 22,000 according to verse 39, but then my total equals 22,300. I think I added them right. I don't know what I've got in verse 39, but
Maybe you didn't read it right.
maybe.
Read it. Read it, Cliff.
20 and 2,000. And look, I got 22,300. Might be a misprint.
Yeah, it might be a misprint.
Right, yeah. But I'll probably say I can't add. I'm wrong somewhere.
Anybody got an explanation for this dilemma we're in? What, Jim?
The only thing I can think of is that those that had a defect wouldn't be counted.
You mean with a flat nose or a crooked back, or? Got any more ideas, Darren? Where are the missing 300? Lynn, you got an idea. Moses and Aaron didn't have that many descendants yet. Aaron didn't have but 4 sons, and 2 of them were dead without children, so. 22,000. See there? Jimmy has it right. What you got, Amanda?
Well, I don't have an explanation, but 343 it says 20.
Yeah, can you hear her?
No.
I said I don't have an explanation, but in Numbers 343 it also gives a different number, 22,270.
No, that's for a different group.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, isn't it?
I don't know, it says.
That is the firstborn.
He numbered the firstborn of all of Israel to compare that to the firstborn among the Levites, right? Or the Kohathites, Gershon's descendants. And Israel came up 273 short, or too many. God came up 273 short according to God's math. And God is right. If God says those numbers add up to 22,000, that's just what they add up to. Just get over it. It's not about you. God said Israel owed him 273 firstborn. They got to pay up. That's just the way it goes. There is no explanation for why God deducted 300 firstborn from the Levites and made them come out to 22,000. Never an explanation. It may be that some of them had a flat nose or a blemish or a crooked back or whatever that disqualified them from doing the service of the tabernacle. We don't know. Maybe, may not be. Who knows? But when God finished counting, Israel owed him 273 people. So he charged them 5 shekels apiece. His numbers are there. Okay, let's see who camps around the tabernacle. Who camped to the north of the tabernacle, Wendell? No, of the Levites. Page 3. Merari up here. What about to the west, Sammy? Gershon? What about to the south, Sheila? Kohath. John David, what about to the east? Moses and Aaron and their families. Chapter 4. Doris, what was Gershon's responsibility?
Tabernacle, the tents, the coverings, the hangings for the court, the curtains, gate, door,
And all the cords.
all the cords.
And who was in charge of overseeing them? Ithamar. You see, this would have been so perfect if Aaron's 2 sons hadn't done what they did. He would have had 1 son each to oversee this, and then the one that was going to be high priest, Nadab, could have been with Aaron learning what to do. But they had to double up on their work because Aaron's 2 oldest sons sinned against God. That was bad. Kohath, Wendy, what were their responsibilities?
Guard, table, candlestick, altars, vessels, hangings, and
And the utensils. And who was over them?
Eleazar.
Azar, who would be the next high priest. Merari, Taylor.
Boards, the bars, the pillars, sockets, vessel, pin, cord.
Yep, the heavy stuff, really. Of course, that tabernacle tent was not light. All those animal skins. And who was over them, Taylor? Ithamar. To do the work of the ministry, a Levite had to be from 30 to 50 years old, right, Lou? How many Kohathites were there? 2750. And Gershonites? 2630. And Merarites? 3200, which totals? 8,580. That adds up right. All right. Let's read through those chapters real quick and point out what's what. Chapters 1 through 3 and 4. Chapter 1, verse 1, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. Where? In the tabernacle. So this is one of those times when Moses was in the most holy place with his veil off, talking with God, and God was speaking to him from where, Token? Where would God speak to Moses from?
Tabernacle.
We know in the tabernacle. Where in the tabernacle? What? Most holy room. From where in the most holy room?
Between the cherubim.
From between the cherubim on the mercy seat. It's where the voice would come from. On the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Canaan. And this, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, who are physically fit for war. That's who was numbered. There was no age limit, but there was an age you had to begin. at which you could begin counting, which was 20. Had to be at least 20, but then you could be 120 if you were still healthy. All right, then he gives the names of the leaders of each tribe that would be with him. And this must have already been in the works, because in verse 18 it said they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees by their families, so they already had the list. Must have already been doing some counting, because God told Moses on a certain day to take the sum. That might be receive the sum that they've been counting, because the same day they handed it to him. First day of the second month of the second year. All right, we've been through all of that. Verse 46, and all they that were numbered were 600,000, 3,550. But the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them. For the Lord had spoken to Moses, saying, Only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel, but thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle, that's carry it from place to place, and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. And of course, that God tells them how to camp around about the tabernacle in chapter 3. And when the tabernacle sets forward, the Levites shall take it down. When the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Who's a stranger in this case, Amy? Anybody, except these Levites. So it could be somebody from Israel that was a stranger in that case, from any other tribe. All right, chapter 2. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, this time, both of them, saying, Every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard with the ensign of their father's house, far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. Then he tells which tribe pitches where. We've got it drawn up here on the board. And in verse 33, we're reminded that the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses. Chapter 3, these are the generations of Aaron and Moses in the day when the Lord spoke with Moses in Mount Sinai, not in the tabernacle. This is when he was with God in Mount Sinai. Then he gives the names of Aaron's sons, Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, they're dead now, Eleazar and Ithamar. These are the sons of Aaron, the priest, who were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest office. Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. So Eleazar and Ithamar ministered in the priest office in the sight of Aaron their father. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister unto him, or be his servants. And they shall keep his commandments, his charge, and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation, to do the service of the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the charge of the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. And Moses, you shall give the Levites to Aaron and to his sons. They are entirely given to him out of all the children of Israel. So the Levites are the servants of the priests. It's very important because it has a lot to do with the curse of Canaan. And who was Canaan, Glenn?
Ham's son.
Ham's son. Who was Ham's father?
Noah.
And Noah's son that he cursed?
Cursed Ham.
Noah cursed Ham.
And Canaan, but Canaan became the recipient of it.
He cursed Ham, but it bounced off him and hit Canaan.
So Ham looked on his nakedness.
Ham looked on Canaan's naked. Noah's nakedness. And what was the curse?
That he would be the servant of servants.
That Noah would be a servant of servants to who?
No. Canaan would be a servant of servants.
Canaan would be a servant of servants. Okay. Well, here's level number 1. The Levites are servants to the priest. The next level doesn't come to the book of Joshua. All right, the Levites are servants to the priest. And thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest office. And look at this. Here it is again. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Who's a stranger in that case, Leanne?
anybody besides Aaron and his sons.
So even the Levites would be strangers in that case, because they couldn't do the service of the priesthood. When the high priest went into the most holy room, and God said, the stranger that comes nigh to that shall be put to death. Tim, who's the stranger in that case?
Anybody else other than
Anybody and everybody else on the planet but the high priest of Israel. So if you're out of your place, you're a stranger to God, and you're in danger. It's a wonderful thing to know your place and stay in it. Verse 11, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of the firstborn that openeth the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. Do you remember this from Exodus 13, when they got ready to leave Egypt? God said, all the firstborn in Israel are going to be mine now.
animals and all, too, not just...
Oh yeah, that's right. On the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. Mine shall they be. I am the Lord. But God changed his mind. Now he's not taking all the firstborn in Israel. He's taking the Levites instead. Why did he do that, Glenn?
Because of what they see. Now, wait a minute. Because of what happened, I guess, while they was camped at Mount Sinai.
Yeah, what happened when they were camped at Mount Sinai? If I hadn't asked you, you could have told me.
Yes, I sure would.
Lou, what happened that made God change from the firstborn of all the tribes to just the Levites?
When they built the golden calf,
Who built the golden calf?
the,
Levites?
well, Aaron built it, but the Israelites.
The Israelites built it, with Aaron being bullied into it, I think. But anyway, he did it. Well, why would that make God change his mind? What event happened that made him choose the Levites? The Levites were part of Israel. You remember, Barbara?
Yeah, he said,
Who said?
Moses said, the Levites were the one that volunteered to take their swords and start hacking them up, and that really pleased God.
Moses, when he got so angry, said, who's on the Lord's side? And the Levites came to him. He said, take your sword out and kill whoever come to first. Mother, father, son, daughter, doesn't make any difference, wife, anybody. And Moses said, that's what God consecrated the Levites from that day instead of the firstborn of Israel.
I really think that's the reason why the number discrepancy between the 22,300 and the 22,000 is because I really feel like that of those 22,300 Levites, there were 300 firstborn, and rather than be counted in the numbering of the Levites, they had to be counted in the numbering of the firstborn because the firstborn had to be paid for. So I think there was 300 firstborns in the numbering of the Levites that had to be counted with the firstborn and therefore not counted with the Levites.
That's another theory.
That makes sense.
That could be. It makes sense. 300 firstborn among 22,300? Is that too few or too many? Who knows? That sounds reasonable, though. What do you think, Glenn?
I think it sounds reasonable.
Sounds a little
but they're like...
Sounds a little short to me. Seems like there ought to be a few more firstborn than that.
There's nothing to prove anything.
There's nothing to say yay or nay to, but that's a good idea, though. All right. Chapter 3, verse 38. But those that encamped before the tabernacle toward the east, before the tabernacle of the congregation eastward, shall be Moses and Aaron and his sons, keeping the charge of the sanctuary for the charge of the children of Israel. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Stranger there is everybody except Moses and Aaron and his sons, camping on just to the east of the eastern gate. Now, according to God's math, which is always right, Israel owed him 273 people. He charged them 5 shekels apiece. And he told Moses to collect the 5 shekels per person in verse 48. Moses, give the money wherewith the odd number of them is to be redeemed unto Aaron and his sons. And Moses took the redemption money of them that were over and above them that were redeemed by the Levites. Of the firstborn of the children of Israel, he took 1,360 65 shekels. And Moses gave the money of them that were redeemed unto Aaron and to his sons according to the word of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, then he starts numbering the Kohathites for their service and describes their service. We just went over those pages. Verse 47, from 30 years old to 50 years old, that's one of those places where it tells what the ages of the Levites were who had to do the work around the tabernacle. Right, chapter 8 belongs right here before we read chapter 5. Let's go to 8 first. It has to do with the consecration of the Levites. The Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron, and say unto him, when you light the lamps, the 7 lamps shall give light over against the candlestick. And Aaron did so. He lighted the lamps thereof over against the candlestick, as the Lord commanded Moses. And this work of the candlestick was of beaten gold, unto the shaft thereof, unto the flowers thereof was beaten work, according to the pattern which the Lord had showed Moses, so he made the candlestick. Where was he, Wendell, when God showed Moses that pattern? Mount Sinai, that's right. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites from among the children of Israel, and cleanse them. And thus shalt you do unto them to cleanse them. Sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Then let them take a young bullock with his, whenever it says meat offering now, remember it's flour. It's a meal offering, not a meat offering, as we think of the word meat. With his meal offering, even fine flour mingled with oil, and another young bullock shalt thou take for a sin offering. And you, Moses, will bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and you gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together, and you shall bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. You know how the person with the animal comes, lays his hands on the animal for the sin to transfer? Well, now the children of Israel come put their hands on the Levites. And Aaron shall offer the Levites before the Lord, just like a sacrifice out of Israel to God, for the offering of the children of Israel, that they may execute the service of the Lord. And the Levites shall then lay their hands upon the heads of the bullocks. And you offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering unto the Lord, to make an atonement for the Levites. And you set the Levites before Aaron and before his sons, and offer them for an offering unto the Lord. Thus shalt thou separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine. And after that, the Levites can go in and do the service of the tabernacle, and you shall cleanse them and offer them for an offering. For they are entirely given unto me from among the children of Israel, instead of such as open every womb, and even instead of the firstborn of all the children of Israel, have I taken them unto me. For all the firstborn of the children of Israel are mine, both man and beast. On the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified them to myself. But I have taken the Levites instead of the firstborn of the children of Israel, and I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron. So instead of every family in Israel bringing their firstborn to Aaron to be his servant, now it's just the tribe of Levi. Now God makes a way in Numbers chapter 5, we'll read about 6, where if somebody wanted to dedicate himself to the Lord, and we see this happen with somebody dedicating their child out of Israel. He makes a Nazirite vow for that reason, dedicate themselves to the Lord for a certain amount of time. But in the main, we got the Levites instead of all the firstborn of Israel. Verse 19, I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and to his sons from among the children of Israel, to do the service of the children of Israel in the tabernacle of the congregation, and to make an atonement for the children of Israel, that there be no plague among the children of Israel when the children of Israel come nigh unto the sanctuary. And Moses and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel did to the Levites according to all that the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites. So did the children of Israel unto them. And the Levites were purified, and they washed their clothes, and Aaron offered them as an offering before the Lord. And Aaron made an atonement for them to cleanse them. And after that went the Levites in to do their service in the tabernacle of the congregation before Aaron. and before his sons. As the Lord commanded Moses concerning the Levites, so did they unto him. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is it that belongeth unto the Levites. From 30 years old and upward they shall go in. 25 years old and upward shall they go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and from the age of 50 they shall cease, waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more, but shall minister with their brethren, etc. The only thing I can figure out is that they have a 5-year apprenticeship. If it's not that, I don't know what he's talking about. 5 years to learn what to do, and beginning at age 30, begin the work. Chapter 5 now. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper and every one that hath an issue, and whosoever is defiled by the dead. Both male and female shall ye put out without the camp. Without the camp means outside the camp. Shall ye put them, that they defile not their camps, in the midst whereof I dwell. And the children of Israel did so, and put them outside the camp. As the Lord spoke unto Moses, so did the children of Israel. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, when a man or woman shall commit any sin that men commit, to do a trespass against the Lord, and that person be guilty, then they shall confess their sin which they have done, and he shall recompense his trespass with the principal thereof, and add to it 20%, the fifth part, and give it unto him against whom he has trespassed. There's another example of the goodness of God. He has the same sacrifice, same amount of penalty if you sin against a man as if you sin against him. If you sin against Aaron and the priest by not bringing your tithes in, it's 20%. You steal some money from your neighbor, it's 20% paying back. God does not have to condescend to men like that. He could have said, if you steal from Aaron, then double it, because he's holier than you ordinary Israelites. But God is good. This is really a wonderful, loving God, trying to teach us, trying to create in us with His Word that He spoke to Moses, a conscience, an understanding of what's right and what's wrong, what's just and what's unjust. In verse 8, But if the man has no kinsman to recompense the trespass unto, let the trespass be recompensed unto the Lord, even to the priest, besides the ram of the atonement, whereby an atonement shall be made for him. If you listen to the Spirit of God, you'll live like this. If you don't even know the Scriptures there, if you don't even know it, at least you'll come close. I can remember when a bunch of us kids were out playing. We'd always play at night in the summertime, get away from all the adults, but we could just run out, hide and seek, run all over the neighborhood. And there was a railroad track through our town, and it was parked there. We decided we wanted to explore a caboose. So we climbed up in the caboose and explored all around, and there was a flare, some flares there. I'd like to have a flare. So I grabbed a flare and took it, and you burn it and look at a flare. But later on in my life, when God began to convict me for sin, He brought that to my remembrance. And I had to write the president of Southern Railroad Lines, and I said, I don't know what a flare costs. I sent him $20. Got a letter from him a couple of weeks later saying, you keep your money, that's all right. But God wouldn't let me keep it. I had to bring it to God if the man wouldn't take it. And later on, I don't know if months, 2 years, I don't know, later on, I found that verse where if you can't pay it back to the person you stole it from, then bring it to the Lord. God will not allow us to profit from sin. It's not good for us. If we've stolen from Jack Smith, and then Jack Smith dies and has no relatives, if we live in Israel, we got to take it to Aaron. We have to get it away from ourselves because it's a curse. It's not ours. It wasn't given to us by God. We stole it. So when I read that verse sometime after that, I thought, yeah, I was feeling the right thing. I gave it to the Lord instead of just keeping it and holding on to it and consider myself lucky. That's not it. You remember the sin offering? If the priest sinned, normally the sin offering was his to eat, a lot of it. But if he had sinned, can't eat any of it. And if the whole nation sinned, no, can't eat any of it because you're part of the whole nation. There are criminals who've made a lot of money writing their stories out. When Jesus comes back, no criminal will get a penny out of his crime. It's not right. It's not just. The people he's done wrong have to be repaid. That's the justice of Jesus. All right, let's go on. Verse 9, and every offering of all the holy things of the children of Israel which they bring unto the priest shall be his, and every man's hallowed things shall be his. Whatsoever any man giveth the priest, it shall be his. And here's the law of jealousy. Now, first of all, let me tell you, there's nothing sinful about jealousy. God is jealous. You remember that in Exodus? He's so jealous. His name is jealous with a capital J. Jealousy is when you're concerned about losing something that God has given to you. It belongs to you. It's yours, 100%. Envy is when you want what God's given somebody else. Envy is never right. It's never a right spirit. Jealousy can be. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hidden from the eyes of her husband, and be kept secret, and she is defiled, and there be no witness against her, neither is she caught, or taken with the manner, or become pregnant, the way Bathsheba did when her husband was off at war, and the spirit of jealousy come on him. You know, if a spirit of jealousy can come on you and you don't even know what's happened, you can feel something's wrong, out of place. In a society that's obeying the will of God, that happens a lot. Can happen a lot because God's taking care of people, letting them know when somebody's done evil against them. So he's pointing out the fact here that a spirit of jealousy can just come on a husband or a wife when there's no physical evidence that would lead them there. It's just a feeling. So God makes provision for this feeling. Spirit of jealousy come on him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled. Or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled. But he's still tormented by a spirit of jealousy. That can happen too. But my father taught me that when a spirit of jealousy comes on somebody, and it gets to the point to where the person is so jealous that he or she accuses the other of misconduct, especially if it gets to the point where there's some physical abuse and anger, then something has happened. But it might not be the person being accused, it might be the accuser that's guilty, because you cannot be unfaithful to your spouse without wondering what they're up to. That's just part of the package. A little jealousy, or jealousy the way God has, is good. God's faithful and He's jealous because He loves His people. But when it crosses that line into false accusation, and especially if it's any abuse, there's something wrong's happened somewhere. God knew that, so He set up this ritual right here to calm the waters. Verse 15, this man upon whom the spirit of jealousy is come shall bring his wife unto the priest, and he shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. No oil, no frankincense, just plain flour, barley meal. For it is an offering of jealousy, an offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. Boy, this is a terrifying thing. I mean, remember what happened to Nadab and Abihu. Brings her and sets her before the Lord. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and look at this, uncover her head. She has no head now. It's her directly dealing with God. And put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causeth the curse. And the priest shall charge her by an oath, and say unto the woman, if no man hath lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness with another instead of thy husband, be thou free from this bitter water that causeth the curse. But if thou hast gone aside to another instead of thy husband, and if thou be defiled, and some man have lain with thee beside thine husband, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing. And the priest shall say unto the woman, the Lord make thee a curse and an oath among thy people, when the Lord doth make thy thigh to rot and thy belly to swell. And this water, she was going to have to drink that water with dust from the tabernacle in it. This water that causeth the curse shall go into thy bowels, to make thy belly to swell and thy thigh to rot. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. I agree. Let it happen. I agree to these terms. And the priest shall write these curses in a book, and blot them out with the bitter water. And he shall cause the woman to drink the bitter water that causeth the curse, and the water that causeth the curse shall enter into her and become bitter. Then the priest shall take the jealousy offering out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before the Lord, and offer it upon the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering, even the memorial thereof, and burn it upon the altar, and afterwards shall cause the woman to drink the water. And when he has made her to drink the water, then it shall come to pass that if she be defiled, and have done trespass against her husband, that the water that causeth the curse shall enter into her, and become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thigh rot, and the woman shall be a curse among her people. And if the woman be not defiled, but be clean, then she shall be free, and shall conceive seed. But what's that going to make the man look like? Goes without saying. This is the law of jealousies. When a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband, and is defiled, or when the spirit of jealousy cometh upon him, and he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before the Lord, and the priest shall execute upon her all this law. Then shall the man be guiltless from iniquity, and this woman shall bear her iniquity.
John, when it says that the priest brings her before the Lord, is that at the door of the tabernacle, or where is that?
I've always kind of pictured her in the holy place, but it's kind of hard to imagine, isn't it?
Especially she was guilty.
I mean, he's got to rake the dust off from the floor of the tabernacle, put it in the water, and give it to her. It just really doesn't say. It could be outside the tabernacle door. Chapter 6. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. These are the three main conditions. Number one, he does not drink wine or strong drink, no vinegar of wine, vinegar of strong drink, neither drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. Nothing from the vine. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk. Number two, all the days of his vow, if he vowed himself to the Lord for 6 months or a year, that whole year he touched nothing that came from a vineyard. Secondly, for that time period, all the days of his vow, no razor comes upon his head. Cannot cut your hair until the days be fulfilled in which he has separated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of his the hair of his head grow. Samson was a Nazarite from his birth. Samuel was dedicated to the Lord from his birth. That's what got Samson into trouble. He cut his hair before he died. Samuel never cut his hair. We're not told that in the Bible, but he was dedicated to the Lord, a Nazarite. Never cut his hair. And you know something? Doesn't it say that Jesus shall be called a Nazarite? I wonder if he ever cut his hair. All the days that he separateth himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. Number 6. No dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father. This is if his father dies, he cannot take part of the funeral. Cannot touch his father's dead body, or his mother's, or his brother or sister when they die, because the consecration of his God is upon his head. Who else couldn't become defiled for his wife, mother, father, son, daughter? The high priest. The priest could become defiled, could touch the dead body of his closest relatives, but a high priest couldn't. So the Nazarite is under the rule of the high priest here. Has to follow the rules of the high priest concerning touching the dead. Verse 9, what if any man has a heart attack, dies suddenly, and he has defiled the head of his consecration? He's got to shave his head in the day of his cleansing. He loses those days. Man, can you imagine offering yourself to the Lord for a whole year, and in the 11th month, your Uncle Fred drops dead and falls in your arms? You have to go through the ritual, shave your head, you've lost those days, and then start. I don't know if you had to start over or just finish it out. It's not real clear here.
So they're not actually separated from anybody then? They just made a vow? Is that what
Yeah. Well, they're not. They don't have to separate. Well, the high priest doesn't have to separate from anybody, really.
Could a non-Levite person make a Nazarite vow and then go to the temple and serve?
We're never told. We're never told anything that I can remember that a Nazarite ever had to do. We just told the rules he had to live by. Be interesting, wouldn't it? Find out some of that. We know what some of the Nazarites did, like Samuel, but they were just anointed by God for that. Not all Nazarites did that.
Samson came in contact with a lot of dead bodies.
He killed a lot of people, didn't he?
So did he lose all his days?
Well, he was also anointed by God to judge Israel, which means deliver Israel. So he had to kill some people. So there was a combination there. Yeah. Samuel hacked Agag up in little pieces. Upon occasion, God bends the rules to accommodate the situation. All right. Verse 12, and he shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation. Now he's been defiled by a dead. What does that sentence mean? He shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation. Does it mean he has to start all over, or just finish it out? Finish out his time, or start all over? I can't tell from that verse. He shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his separation.
Well, it goes on to say in that same verse, but the days that were before shall be lost.
I know the days that before are lost. I know that because the dead bodies touched him. But does he have to start counting all over again?
Oh, okay.
Or can he just take it up from there? And then he goes through a long ceremony when his days are fulfilled. In verse 13, this is the law of the Nazarite when the days of his separation are fulfilled. He shall be brought unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Now, Betty, that's opposed to where the jealous husband brought his wife, right? She was brought unto the Lord. Where is that verse? And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. That sounds like a lot closer than at the door of the tabernacle.
Dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like it's right there in the holy place. Well, anyway, the Nazarite comes to the door of the tabernacle and makes an offering, tells them what kind of animals, what kind of meal offering to add with it. In verse 16, the priests bring them before the Lord and offer it. Verse 18, the Nazarite shaves his head at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation and takes the hair of his head and puts it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offerings. Then the priest does his part. Verse 22, or verse 21, that says, this is the law of the Nazarite. Verse 22, And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is the way you are to bless the children of Israel, saying unto them. This is a very famous couple of verses here. Every Jew in the world knows these verses and has heard them many times, probably, if they are practicing their religion at all. Israel has repeated this over and over and over again through the ages. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Amen. Use that blessing, Aaron. That's pretty simple, isn't it? He didn't have to even memorize a long poem. Just pass this blessing on to my people. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Amen. Now, we read chapter 7 before, when the tabernacle was dedicated. We've read chapter 8 about the consecration of the Levites. We've read chapter 9 earlier about keeping the Passover on the second month, the 14th day, if you miss it on the first, and about the cloud covering the tabernacle by day and the appearance of fire by night. So, all right, now we're in Numbers 10. Just about to pack up and leave Sinai. And God gives them one more work of the law to build. A work of the law is something God gives man to do or to make. He gives them one more work to make, the trumpets. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver. Of a whole piece shalt thou make them, one piece, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly and for the journeying of the camps. You can use them to gather the assembly together in verse 3. You can use them to gather the princes of the tribes and not the whole assembly in verse 4. You can blow an alarm to make the camps start moving out, packing up. When you blow the second time in verse 6, then the southern side takes off and go on around the ground like that. Verse 8, who's going to blow the trumpets? The priests. The fourth reason you can blow these trumpets for is if you go to war in verse 9. And the fifth reason is the holy days and sacred days in verse 10. You have that? Now, we're going to switch over to Deuteronomy chapter 1 for a few verses. Keep your place there and go over to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Deuteronomy chapter 1 is 40 years later, and Moses gives us a little extra information about the events we're reading. About chapter 1, verse 6. The Lord our God spoke unto us at Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough in this mountain. Turn you and take your journey and go to the mount of the Amorites and unto the places nigh thereunto, in the plain and in the hills and in the vale and in the south, that's the Negev, by the seaside, to the land of the Canaanites, and even unto Lebanon, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to give unto them and their seed after them. All right, now back to Numbers, chapter 10. Verse 11. And it came to pass on the 20th day of the second month, in the second year from the time they left Egypt, the cloud lifted off from the tabernacle, and the children of Israel took their journeys out of the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud rested in the wilderness of Paran, and they took their journeys according to the commandment of God. Now the next verse tells us who went first. So, tell me what you're reading there, Amanda. What tribe took off to the east first? Now, first of all, Moses and the ark went first. Moses and the ark. They went on ahead of everybody, following the cloud. Who went first as far as the tribes go in there? We're marching east now. That's why I'm starting here. Who was first? Somebody tell me. Judah was the first one gone? Okay, so we're following Moses and the ark. Who was next? Issachar. And then what? Zebulun. Then who? Who? Gershon and Merari?
Ferrari.
And doing what? Hey, yeah, they're carrying their parts to the tabernacle, aren't they? What was Gershon's part? Coverings, badger skins, ram skins, all that stuff. All right, who was after Gershon and Merari? Who? Reuben. Then who? Simeon. I got to turn south here a little bit. Oh, Kohath. Uh-oh. What's Kohath carrying? Yeah, the furniture of the tabernacle. Ark. Not the ark. That's up there. Incense altar, everything else except the ark that goes there. Then who? Who's the head of all the tribes now? Who's following this holy stuff right here? Ephraim's the head of all the tribes, so they're following all the candlestick and the showbread and the incense altar and whatever else they had there. Who's next? Manasseh. Who's next? Benjamin. Then Dan? Then Asher? Naphtali. There's the marching order south, from southwest up to northeast toward Canaan's land. Now I got a question for you. Sandy, what's going on here? I see a problem.
You see a problem?
Yeah, I see a problem. They got the tribe of Levi chopped all up here, cut in half. Why'd they do that? Why'd God do this?
Why does he have Kohath and Gershon and Merari in the middle?
No. Why does he have Gershon and Merari? This is Sandy's question, by the way. Why does he have Gershon and Merari here, and 4 spots later in the marching area have Kohath? I mean, he's out there by himself. This is Sandy's problem.
Well, Kohath's not really by himself.
I know he's got friends.
Well, I would think that he did all that for protection. For them. For the vessels.
Well, he did. God did all. He lined them up marching like this to protect the sick and the old and the weak, the young. Because when Israel was marching in ragtag manner to Mount Sinai, the old and the sick and the young were dragging behind. The Amalekites attacked them, slaughtered them. Now you got to stay with your tribe. The whole system moves a little slower, but everybody's protected. That's a different issue. The issue is, why did he chop off Gershon and Merari, or chop off Kohath, and separate them and stick them in the line like that? Wendy?
I was thinking Gershon and Merari would get there and set up the outside, and then they would come and put the inside.
Of course, makes perfect sense, Sandy.
Oh, well, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, we all knew that, didn't we? They're marching across. By the time Kohath arrives to the camping spot, the tabernacle's set up, so they don't have to hang around outside with the furniture of the tabernacle in it. Everybody try to peep into. Tabernacle's set up, and they just march right on in and put it up. That's the marching order in chapter 10. Verse 33, and they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them in the 3 days' journey to search out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. And it came to pass, when the ark set forward, that Moses said, Rise up, Lord, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee. And when it rested, he said, Return, O Lord, unto the many thousands of Israel.
John,
Yeah.
it's 3 days' journey that Moses and them were ahead of?
It sounds like it at times, but it's hard to imagine that Moses was ahead 3 days. How'd they find him? Had to be a tall cloud they followed after, I guess.